Grace and peace. Welcome to another episode of the TBT Show. I'm Anthony Moten. My partner in crime, as always, is Shawn P. Aguilar. Shawn, how are you?
Man, I'm great. Better than I deserve.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it. Better than I deserve.
Better than I deserve.
Someone asked me this past weekend how I was, and before I knew it, I said better than I deserve. I said, Shawn is with me. We're welcoming Shawn back to our delightful city.
Yes.
He had some time away. Text me when you hit the ground like, hey, I'm back in Houston. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Right.
But how was the trip?
Man, it was good, man. Went out to Memphis with the wife, and we had a really good time, man, just enjoying the city and all the rich history and culture, that was there. So we got the opportunity to just get a little rest and relaxation and just take in some of the sights and some of the,
absolutely,
the museums that were available. And man, I got to tell you, it really was impactful.
Yeah.
Our first stop was the National Civil Rights Museum.
As it should be.
The first stop.
As it should be.
And it was definitely eye-opening. And I must say, well done.
Yeah.
It is done.
Yeah.
Everything there is conducted with excellence in terms of the staff, the grounds, the exhibits. If you have not been to the National Civil Rights Museum, make your way as soon as you can.
It's a must go. It's a must go.
Must.
It's a must go.
Must.
I actually give credit to where my oldest is. Some years ago, he must have been in maybe the 8th grade, maybe 8th going to the 9th. And Evan was a little younger. And we went, and to this day, I have pictures of us in the museum. And even since then, they've made major upgrades.
Right.
And from what I hear, they have some more upgrades in the works. And so, kudos to Memphis. And that's, I think every African-American should visit that museum at least one time.
At least.
One time.
If you want to see the case made for why civil rights was and is so important to fight for.
Right.
It'll give you a perspective of how far we've come, but also at the same time, what we still need to do to continue to progress.
Absolutely.
Because there are changes that are still necessary.
Right.
But I mean, it starts you off all the way back from the transatlantic slave trade,
right,
all the way back to the beginning. You'll be able to see not quite of a statue, but basically an exhibit that shows what it would have been like to be on a slave ship.
Right.
How small the quarters were, how tight and packed in it was, and the statistics, the mortality rate, what a slave went for economically, that a few pieces of cotton could get a human life into another human's possession. I mean, it was,
yes, sir.
It's just ridiculous how cheap life was transacted for in terms of the slave trade.
Right.
And then going on in terms of, the civil rights struggles, even before the 60s and legislation, but just all the way through.
Before
that.
And I think one of the key reasons why it's a must go for every African American is it gives us value where we are by seeing, how they devalued us. And then like people sacrificed their lives for us to be where we are. And, how dare we keep living one without living in appreciation of that sacrifice.
Right.
And then two, making our own sacrifices for the generations behind us.
Right.
So that's why it's a must go for me.
Yeah.
For every African American.
It's definitely, it's bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, it hurts your heart to see the injustices and to see what we as a people have had to go through.
Right.
To see the people that had to sacrifice their lives.
Right.
You know,
Right.
you see, you know, bombings of churches and buses, and you see people that had water hoses and dogs sicked on them and all these different things. You see, of course, it's attached to the Lorraine Motel.
Absolutely.
Which has been well preserved.
In a great way.
Yeah. And room 306, where Dr. Martin Luther King stayed, and room 307, where his associates were staying, and to view the balcony and to see, you know, basically this frozen in time, this capsule.
Absolutely.
And to see across the street, there's the Lorraine portion, and then there's the legacy portion.
Mm-hmm.
And the legacy portion, you can actually go and see from the point of view of the shooter, of the assassin, where he literally peered through across the street to take that fateful shot.
Right.
And to see some of the more modern portions of the exhibit. So that's the bitter part.
Yeah.
You know, but it's sweet to see that we do live in a time where where we're free to be able to put that type of exhibit together.
Right.
And that we have worked together in order to build this monument, for lack of a better term, to the struggle.
Right.
And see it done with excellence. So I left with a enhanced sense of dignity.
Right.
And an appreciation, you know, for the great things that our forebears have done.
Absolutely.
And the trials and that they've faced and the triumphs that they've had. And so it was encouraging.
Right.
Upon the exit, you know, but bittersweet, you know, bittersweet moment, but highly recommended for everyone, but especially if you, you know, are a Black American, must make your way to Memphis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, I think outside of Houston, of course, because I live here, got to put Houston on the list.
Native Houston.
Right. Got to put Houston on the list. Outside of Houston, and, you know, maybe Atlanta, Memphis is one of my must go to, you know, cities. And I owe Memphis. They were good to my oldest, and for a couple of years, man. So I owe Memphis. Great city. Mm-hmm. I got a couple buddies, pastor in Memphis. So great. Great city. Yeah. So great, you know, great city to be in. That's one of the major benefits of going to Memphis.
Oh yeah. And actually, you know, our accommodations was right on the corner of South Main Street and G.E. Patterson Boulevard.
G.E. Patterson. Can't say Memphis without saying G.E. Patterson.
Can't say it.
Gilbert Earl Patterson.
Yeah.
You know, and Memphis is, I mean, again, and I think sometimes we overlook it. Mm-hmm. Memphis is, you know, a city that's couched in so much history.
So much. We had the opportunity to visit other museums. Obviously, the first stop was the National Civil Rights Museum. Mm-hmm. We also made our way to the Rock and Soul Museum.
Of course.
We made our way to the Stax Records Museum that I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
One of the first integrated record labels that signed such artists as Isaac Hayes, Otis Redding, you know, the Barkays. And so there was just so much rich history that one of my favorites, you know, I'm a car guy.
Of course.
So one of my favorites of the exhibit is the 1972 Cadillac that belonged to Isaac Hayes. It was $26,000 when he bought it in 1972. To calculate that for inflation, that would be worth $181,000 in today's money. And it was seemed like it was 27 feet long. But it was a Cadillac Eldorado coupe. Beautiful green with a Landau top. Every accent was gold plated, not gold colored.
Gold plated.
Gold plated. Yeah. I mean, you talk about digging in the scene with a gangster lean. That's about that car.
Yeah.
And they have it on a rotating platform, so you can see all the angles. Beautiful piece of automotive artistry. But they have that there on exhibit. But yeah, just to be able to see all kinds of different things, and it was good just to listen to those songs, again, and see in context of what all was going on culturally,
when those songs were written,
historically. Yeah, because that it influenced their art.
Right.
What was going on at the time.
Right.
And so we can't divorce the culture and context from the art itself, because the culture and context inform the artist, which therefore inform the art itself, that was produced.
Right.
So, Memphis, man, it was a lot deeper than I thought.
Yeah.
Great a lot
city.
of people think, okay, Beale Street and da-da-da and all that, and that's all nice and good.
Yeah.
But I mean, such a rich history.
Right.
In terms of civil rights, in terms of culture, in terms of music, really a melting pot, in terms of the Mid-South.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of, I've been, I think, maybe 4 or 5 times. Stephen Olford Institute is in
Really?
Memphis. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In Memphis. And so going to that, and then, one of my hero preachers, is, used to pastor Bellevue, that's in Memphis.
Okay.
So, that, and then, so Memphis is the city to go to. If I wasn't a Houstonian, I would live in Memphis.
Yeah. I mean,
great city. Great city.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That, rest and relaxation, and that's necessary.
Yeah.
And so, I know
don't skip past that.
Yeah. I know this kind of season of COVID has kind of kept us in. But you need that time of getaway of, refreshment and, whatever. You can come back refocused, so good you had that time away.
Oh yeah, man.
Good you had that time away.
Definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. So now you can get back on the ground running.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Excited for that.
One of the first things that I wanted to talk about, you can give more detail. This generation, and we've talked about it, a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's mixed with, we're hypersensitive.
Yes.
And I think we try to change normals to meet our hypersensitive condition.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk about the war on words.
The war on words, yes, sir.
Yeah, that we're. I remember words used to be defined a couple of different ways, especially words that had multiple meanings.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to define words by its context.
Mm-hmm.
Like words that create so much burden and pain for people, used in the right context, or used in a different context, those same words can be enlightening and uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the difference in somebody calling you, some animal, or saying, "I went to the zoo to see a monkey."
Mm-hmm.
Like the context makes it, So Lizzo does a song, and she uses a word that I think we've all used in some capacity.
As children.
Yeah. And gets some pressure, and that pressure makes her, and kudos to Lizzo, because that she didn't have to. But she went back and, revised her song and changed the lyrics to make people comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But for the bigger picture, for me, we just live in a hypersensitive generation.
Right.
Where like everything means something. And sometimes stuff just means what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And not everything is insulting.
Right.
So, and you probably got the details of the song, whatever, but the word that she used, that she changed,
mm-hmm.
was, and she used it in combination like we always do, spazzed
mm-hmm.
out.
Mm-hmm.
A certain group of people. And I don't even think, is the organization from America?
It's not even an organization. It was just a person. So let me just go ahead and give a little bit about the story.
Okay.
So Lizzo ended up having to change a lyric on her latest song, Girls, okay, with no vowel. So just GRRRLS. And so in her lyrics, she described that she was going to spaz out because of a particular situation, right? And so one person wrote, "Hey, at Lizzo, my disability, cerebral palsy, is literally classified as spastic diplegia, where spasticity refers to unending painful tightness in my legs. Your new song makes me pretty angry and sad. Spaz doesn't mean freaked out or crazy. It's an ableist slur. It's 2022. Do better." Okay. So basically, one person started it, and then, then all of a sudden the fake outrage machine ramps up production. Another person said, "I'm disappointed at Lizzo for using the word spaz in her new song, Girls. There's no excuse for using an ableist insult in a song in 2022. As someone who champions women, plus size people, and others whom society treats poorly, Lizzo preaches inclusivity and should do better." Okay. So basically you have one person, not an organization. One person cites their outrage. Another person cites their outrage. And so to stop the avalanche of outrage, Lizzo caves in and has to now address it because she has preached inclusivity. So now she's become, in a way, a victim of her own philosophy and her own mentality. And so I do agree with you that, hey, it was probably a good thing for her to go ahead and do what she did, which was to, hey, I understand this is, this is insulting to you. And she changed the lyric to where it no longer included that. I was today years old when I heard of such a thing as an ableist slur.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this terminology ever before. So I didn't know that there was such a thing, such an animal as an ableist. But apparently there is. And so Lizzo responded and said, "Hey, it's been brought to my attention that there is a harmful word in my new song, Girls. Let's make one thing clear. I never want to promote derogatory language." Good point. "As a fat black woman," and I'm quoting here, okay? "As a fat black woman in America, I've had many hurtful words used against me, so I understand the power words can have, whether intentionally or, in my case, unintentionally. I'm proud to say there's a new version of Girls with the lyrics changed. This is a result of me listening and taking action. As an influential artist, I'm dedicating to be a part of the change I've been waiting to see in the world. Hugs and kisses, Lizzo."
And I said kudos to Lizzo because I think she did it from
I think she did. I think on the front end that she meant no ill will.
Right.
I'm not a big Lizzo fan. So I'm going to add her to the list. First we have Monique, and now I'm going to tell you Lizzo also. Shawn is not a big fan.
Yeah.
But I do not think that she had any kind of ill intent.
And I think that's why she changed
on the front end. Right. And, her wanting to accommodate her fans also. Kudos again. And then she took action and said, "Hey, I'm I didn't realize that was a problem, but let me go ahead and fix the problem that you've made me aware of. And here we go.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So all thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Here's my deal.
And it's probably the same deal, but go ahead.
Here's my deal. The rest of the content of the song is filled with plenty of objectionable material.
Okay.
Plenty of objectionable material. But what was picked out was this, so-called ableist slur. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think the two people that were reported to have had a problem with it really had a problem with it. I think it was an opportunity to express fake outrage, to present themselves as, I'm more woke than you are. And so this is an opportunity for me to express my fake outrage because we're hypersensitive. And so nothing can just roll off your back. Nothing can just pass by. Even, there's so many things that are going on where people are doing things and saying things that with ill intent.
And that's my frustration. So here's my issue, because I have a lot of them. So I believe that what Lizzo did opened the door for now every artist, entertainer, whoever now has to retract.
Right. So now you have artists being edited. You have the Oscar slap. You have the person that ran up on Dave Chappelle. So where is freedom of speech in this country?
Right. And then expressly about, like, in vacuums like that.
Right.
So that's a issue that, that I have, because now she's opened the door. So now every other artist is going to feel compelled to do the same.
Right. So now every time a song comes out, what's going to happen is people are going to go on Rap Genius, pull up the lyrics and see, let me find what I got a problem with.
Pick and choose.
But but here's the deal. It's only if you're a member of some oppressed group. Because otherwise, if you're a Christian, it doesn't matter. If you're a black man, it doesn't matter what you have to say. Oh, you got a problem with it? Well, toughen up, buttercup.
Because here, and then, I know as a generation, we're personality driven. It's not what's said. It's who says it. So where was this person to present this outrage, this ableist slur, when the then president made fun?
Yeah, where were they at? I didn't hear anything.
When he made, and he acted out, he made fun of someone who, was in a similar condition,
a reporter. Right.
So, and again, it's like, so.
And there was backlash, but this Twitter account didn't express any backlash.
No.
But here's the deal. They also knew that Trump's not going to retract anything.
At all.
But they'll get Lizzo to back down.
Right.
Because Lizzo has set herself up that she subscribes to the philosophy of inclusivity.
Yeah.
So now, since you subscribe to that, you're subject to it.
But see, and I don't agree with, just because I subscribe to that doesn't mean that I'm trying to do anything if I say spaz out or I mean anything by it. That's almost like saying, or a couple weeks ago, which is still, fresh, just like saying, because I promote women getting equal pay and equal opportunity means I have to support Monique. Her winning the Oscar has nothing to do with stand-up comedy.
Nothing.
That's not, and again, I think sometimes we try to weigh things on different scales, and it doesn't come out right. So, I mean, Lizzo can continue to promote, speaking up for women and women that are overlooked because they're thicker and all of that, and still stay spazzed out and not mean anything by it.
Well, here's the deal. In the context of the song, what's basically going on is that She is upset. Does that make sense? Because it's here's the deal. I can't even read you the lyrics.
Right.
I know we're not on the radio.
Right.
But I try to treat it like
right.
we're on the radio in terms of FCC guidelines.
Right.
I can't even read this song. But basically, she's upset and she's saying, hold my bag. Do you see this? I'm a spaz. So there's something that's going on that she's freaking out about. And the spaz part is not describing someone in a derogatory fashion. Right. It's self-deprecating.
Right.
She's saying that, hey, because of this situation, I'm freaking out.
Right.
So it was a self-descriptor. But watch this. So let me show you what she's upset about. So later in the song, and so she says, let me take these earrings off and hit the Boosie Ratchet with my friends. Whoa, oh, whoa. Whoop that. We're going to leave that out. Watch this. Now she's referring to a man. I'm going to go Lorena Bobbitt on him so he never blanks again. So she's describing in this same song with the ableist slur that is the most objectionable material in this song. She's literally saying that there's a situation with another man that has upset her to the level that she would want to cut off his manhood so that he could never have sex again. That's what Lizzo's content is. But the thing that's objectionable is she said the word spaz.
Right.
So, now here's the deal. If an American male were to tweet Lizzo, hey, at Lizzo,
right.
In your song, you offended me because you described cutting off a man's manhood.
Yeah.
What would it be, oh, well, let me edit the lyric. Let me go back. No, it'd be, sorry, this is art.
Right.
This is for me and my girls anyways. Da, 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 da. As a man, you don't have a right to, I could already see,
right.
Which way it would turn.
Right.
But what happened is this. Lizzo is a black woman, but she's a black woman that's an artist that's rich. This person that has cerebral palsy, I don't know what that person's race is, but at the end of the day, on the oppression hierarchy,
right,
Lizzo is higher up than her. So that's the name of the game in wokeism, is that who is the most oppressed party, they win automatically.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter, because this person, because that's how it works with that whole the whole inclusion and intersectionality and all that different stuff.
Yeah.
Is that whoever is the most oppressed party automatically wins, regardless of merit, regardless of truth, regardless of anything objective. So the quality of ideas doesn't matter.
Wow.
The objective morality doesn't matter. That's why the morality of mutilating a man
is okay.
Is okay, but spaz is not.
Right. So can we even call that woke? That's almost like mentally, that's sleep deprivation. Like, and that's this, and I think that's
you're
this
an
culture.
insomniac.
Yeah,
you're always woke. But see, that's what happens with the culture, is that it's a competition to who can be the most woke, who's the most oppressed. And so let me play my oppression card. I have a better oppression hand than you. Give me that book.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow. So even as you pointed to being a man, but even as a Christian, could I say, hey, look, these lyrics are offensive, to my,
But here's where they're going to play the relative card.
Right.
Is that, well, it's offensive to you. It's offensive to you American male Christian who's higher on the oppression scale than me? Because if you're an American male Christian, okay, then that means you're higher up and you're an oppressor of the black female. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So I need a cheat sheet to see who is where.
Right. So, I mean, here's the deal. If you're in America, I'm going to give you the formula. In America, if you're a white, straight male, you are the oppressor of everybody.
Okay.
So then it's like a minority funnel.
Right.
How narrow does, you see what I'm saying?
Right.
So then, okay, let's narrow it down. So then under that, then you would have a American minority male that is straight or cisgendered.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Then sometimes you have ties, right? Because if you have a American white homosexual, they can be beaten by American minority homosexual. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's how many protected classes or how many ways are you oppressed?
Right.
So there's some people that literally they can't get fired. You can't say anything to them because they are a minority, female, non-binary, disabled. You see what I'm saying?
Right,
so that person can, if they subscribe to this philosophy, does that make sense?
Yeah,
is that by no means of what actually happened to them in their life, but just because of their situation, their condition, that they're automatically oppressed. And if they're oppressed more than you can never be right.
Wow.
Because you are their oppressor.
So I think sometimes in this country, in this culture, we're just doing too much. And so, and I get it. And I mean, if something is genuinely, and I know, because somebody's going to say, I could read the email now. Somebody's going to say.
I can read the email now.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's not offensive to you doesn't mean it's not offensive. And I understand that being offended is relative.
Can be relative.
It can.
Some things are just objectionably offensive. So no one can convince me, because there was a so-called artist that took a jar and put a crucifix in the jar and filled it with urine and said that was art. To me, that's objectively offensive. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Right. But you can't write a cartoon about Muhammad.
Right.
Or you'll get bombed.
Right.
Does that make sense in France?
Right.
Because again, if you're Christian, then you're automatically if you subscribe to this wokeism type of situation, this intersectionality, you're considered to be in the majority and the social standard. So then if you deviate from the social standard, the however many ways you deviate from the social standard is that many ways you're oppressed.
Right.
Regardless of what's actually happened to you in your life.
Right.
Yeah, regardless of facts, regardless of
this is,
you see what I'm saying?
And I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think we've ever been at a place that we are now.
Mm-mm.
I'm even in our culture where we live right now, a lot of entertainers that I grew up on wouldn't be able to entertain.
Mm-mm.
I mean, because we're so, hypersensitive. In a way, kudos to Lizzo for changing her lyrics, but she opened Pandora's box, and it's going to be hard for any other entertainer.
Yeah. But now she's found herself at a moment where she's the oppressor. And that's the danger when you subscribe to that philosophy and that worldview, is that no matter where you are, there's someone that can show up that's more oppressed than you.
Right.
So while you describe yourself as the oppressed because of your sex, because of your size, does that make sense?
Right.
Whatever the case may be,
Right.
someone else can always come in and say, hey, I got a better card than
Right.
you.
Right.
Give me that book. You see what I'm saying? From a biblical standpoint, if you look at Proverbs 29:13, the poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight to the eyes of both.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, there's gonna be richer and poorer for all time.
Right.
There's gonna be one race and another race for all time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We're all gonna have to learn how to love each other, but that goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
From the oppressed to the oppressor, and from the oppressor to the oppressed.
Then I think sometimes in this, and maybe that's how the culture got here. Because for a long time, it had to be at least one direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been that direction for so long. And now if it's not that, then okay. So now since I have to have love for my oppressor, he doesn't have love for me. Now it's like me looking down. So now I have to have someone to oppress. And it's like, it's a chain reaction. It's never going,
But it's even more than that, because you got people that are not oppressed, but that are looking to show themselves to be oppressed.
Right.
So you got people that are casting themselves into fake oppression, into psychological shackles.
Right.
Because they think that somehow that'll give them the advantage.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because I can guilt you
into,
you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Into this, and somehow, some way, I can use that to leverage an advantage over you.
Right.
Does that make sense? Right. And look at what happened. So they label Lizzo an ableist and said, you have used an ableist slur against me and my people. And here's the deal. I said, you know what? Before I form my opinion of this, let me go and seek out someone that's part of that community. So I went on YouTube and I found a YouTube channel of someone that's disabled.
Okay.
And they commented on this situation.
Okay. So what was their commentary?
It's my commentary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Not in terms of the intersectionality, all that different stuff. That's a whole separate thing that they didn't get into. But they said, hey,
we're hypersensitive.
Spaz.
It's
spaz. It's like he even granted the same way I granted up front and said, hey, there was no ill intent here.
Right.
And he even related it to the use of the N-word.
Right.
That, hey, if it's friendly and ends with an A and it's acceptable to the room, no harm, no foul.
Right.
Hard R, offensive to the room, foul.
Right.
And so he related that, hey, there was no ill intent.
Right.
Why are we having this conversation?
Right.
And this is a gentleman that's part of the community. Because again, I have to check my oppression card here and make sure that, hey, let me seek the counsel of someone that's in that community. Because at the end of the day, it's difficult for me to relate.
Right. Because I'm an ableist.
Because I'm right.
Right.
I've been labeled an ableist.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So I'm like, hey, let me see what other parts of the community have to say. This whole thing came off of two people on Twitter. And like you said, the first question was, well, who's the organization?
Yeah, I'm like,
there is none.
Yeah, I'm like,
there is none.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? Two social snipers on Twitter.
Shooting from long distance. Wow.
From a mile away.
See this,
But they had Lizzo in their sights, headshot, ready to go.
and she knows we live in cancel culture.
And she knows we live in cancel culture.
And yeah, before it even gets there.
Yep. So it's like, hey,
because I really didn't mean anything.
Because if she doesn't do it, it's Good Morning America.
Right.
It's making its way all the way around. It's ET. It's TMZ.
Right.
Lizzo is an ableist.
Right. And then it's radio stations, DJs, don't play this song.
Don't play in this song. Right. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So she was smart.
So don't play Lizzo.
But understand, this was a business decision on the part of Lizzo. She's got a new single that she's hoping is going to be hot. And it's like, hey, what is it to rewrite, re-record 3 seconds,
right?
Of lyrics, press it out again, and okay, everybody, here's a new batch.
Right.
It was like, just coming up with a new and improved taste.
This is, and I think it speaks volumes to a culture that's already on decline.
Yeah.
Because
we're seeing our it's called the Bill of Rights, but it's really the paragraph of privileges. Because at the end of the day, if we're not careful, we'll lose it.
Yeah.
We'll lose free speech.
Yeah.
If we're not careful.
Right.
So even though someone may say something that I don't agree with, I support their right
to say
it.
Right.
Because otherwise, we're in a censorship state.
Right.
I'm not for Lizzo's lyrics.
Right.
But I'm for her having the freedom to write those lyrics and to perform those lyrics.
Right.
I just encourage people that want to guard their eyes and guard their ears, guard their mind. This is probably not the best person. This is not the best person for you to listen to if you're trying to guard yourself.
Right.
But I support her right that's granted by the Constitution of this country for her to say whatever it is she wants to say.
Especially in the art
But
form.
I can say whatever I want to say as well.
Absolutely. Right.
And I don't subscribe to the wokeism, and so
and that
sorry.
Sometimes we need to just back down. And that's and that's not just in this situation, but a lot of we're just hypersensitive. And not everything means everything. Not everything, is pointed to offend or, and sometimes we just do the most. But
yeah, because I mean, if we were in a different culture and context, it should have been sufficient to say, "Oh, I'm sorry,
my bad. I didn't mean it.
I didn't mean it that way."
Right.
Next question.
Right. But we don't.
But we're not there.
No,
we're not there, and she has too much to lose.
Right.
Because obviously she figured that it was a better business decision to go ahead and make the change and all that different stuff. And it probably was the best decision in the sense of economically, business, all that different stuff. But in the long term, was it the best decision?
Right.
Time will tell.
Right.
Time will tell. We can't really say that right now.
Yeah, we can't.
I have my perspective on it. And I'm sure she does. And I'm sure these two people that are on Twitter, they have theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that long term, it will show to be an erosion of the freedom of speech. And because I'm concerned when I see this amongst the arts.
Right. You should have especially in an art form, you should have the freedom to say and do. And now you got the freedom to say whatever. But again, especially in the art form. Right. So,
and that doesn't mean she can't be criticized. Right. But should she have to go back and change the art?
See, then that's
the way it was made.
A generation that said it's okay for Will to slap Chris because he shouldn't have said it, even though he said it as a comedian practicing in an art form.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? That, so
it's art until I'm upset.
And that's, and again, as a culture. Well, speaking of changes, and Lizzo changing her lyrics, which could have been, and we'll see, could be bad, good decision. I think bad, not just for her, but every other entertainer. So CEO of Starbucks has decided to make some
changes as well. Correct.
Of which I believe those changes will ultimately be detrimental. Not just for Starbucks as a brand and a company, but but again, just tell us about the changes that the CEO of Starbucks is.
Sure. So Starbucks, if you live in a major city, is ubiquitous. I mean, it's everywhere.
Right.
And so they have a concern regarding the mental health of some of its patrons, and it's having to wrestle with its previous policy, which has been, hey, we want Starbucks, we being, the management, they want Starbucks to be your third place. So you have home, you have work, and then they would like it to be that if you needed to meet someone, if you needed to have a meeting, or if you just wanted to gather with friends and you weren't meeting at home and you weren't meeting at work, that Starbucks would be that third place.
Right.
Okay. So because of that, they have a policy that I believe is still currently in place that anyone, regardless of if you made a purchase or not, is welcome to come and sit and stay, use the restrooms at a Starbucks, regardless of whether you order, the half calf, whatever, your latte or your caramel macchiato upside down or whatever beverage of your choice or food. Because they wanted a welcoming environment.
Absolutely.
So it's like, hey, come over here. It's like going over to a friend's house type of deal. And that has worked for them. They got a bunch of locations, and it's like, hey, let's go to Starbucks. I mean, and
I've used it a couple times.
Yeah. It's been successful for them. However, they're now reconsidering their position in light of some of the situations and circumstances that have taken place at certain locations where maybe property's been damaged, or customers have been made uncomfortable because of others' presence. Someone that's walking in that maybe doesn't look or smell the same way that one of its customers does.
Right.
And also COVID-19 concerns were there, basically health and safety. They are trying to figure out how to go in a different direction, which is to, they use the term harden. They use the term harden their policies in their stores. And so basically they would serve fewer people and limit the amount of people that could be in the store. And so in turn, that would limit who could use the facilities and
probably
who could
get
be
to the point of if you don't make a purchase.
If you don't make a purchase.
Okay, so here's my position.
Yeah.
And I read the article a couple times because I was just kind of confused.
Yeah.
So that hardening your policies does what? Because McDonald's has hardened policies, and people that don't look like or smell like their regular customers still come in.
Correct.
Yeah. So now there's this big scene to get them out. Like it does, like making your policies more stiff does nothing. It doesn't stop those things from happening. And hardening your policies is only going to make the percentage of us that go smaller. Right. So there have been times where I went to Starbucks to meet someone, and of course if I'm in there I'm gonna get I'm gonna get a drink. I mean,
right. Even if it's just a water.
Absolutely. It's Starbucks.
Some Ethos water or
it's Starbucks. If I'm going to, but I'll go simply because it's a good atmosphere to meet,
Right.
and they have Wi-Fi.
Boom. There you go.
I'm killing two birds with one stone. But if you take that off the table, then chances are I'm not gonna go to Starbucks. So again, and a lot of people have built a business model based on Starbucks policy. Churches, and I mentioned the book, the Gospel According to Starbucks.
Before we went on the air,
right? The Gospel According to Starbucks. It talks about having a church with an open, welcoming, environment, and then like Starbucks is gonna, especially if you go to the right one, they're gonna make you feel like you're at home. You're a part of the team. They're gonna put your name on the cup.
Put your name on the cup.
They're gonna call you by name. I mean, is it? So
I mean, they started that.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, everybody else that now takes your order and may I have a name for the order?
They got it from Starbucks.
They got it from Starbucks.
That's what I'm saying. Like a lot of people have built their business model and their church model and they're based on your policy. Now to change midstream, like, what's the benefit?
Right. Well, and now you're putting your employees in a really tough spot.
Right.
Because now a manager or an employee, an associate, whatever, you want to use, now has to make the decision. When do you draw the line of asking someone to leave?
Right. Now I got to keep up with who got what.
Do you do you have to have the bathroom set up like the gas station with the key on the end of a hubcap? You see what I'm saying? Key on the end of a cappuccino maker,
right?
So it's like, now you're putting your employees in a situation where they have to be confrontational, maybe even adversarial.
I got to be a barista and a bodyguard, and you know what I'm saying,
right? Exactly to a potential client,
right?
Because obviously they're not gonna. If you spend money, they're not going to ask because you're actually a customer. Here's one thing that I do want to remind the general public of, because I've worked in retail at the beginning of my career. You're not a customer until you spend money,
right?
Until then, you're a shopper. So most businesses, they serve the needs of their customers. Does that make sense?
Right.
But a potential customer is a shopper. And so now it's like, okay, at what point do I have to say, hey, I have to change you from being a potential customer to eliminating that potentiality?
Right. Now an adversary.
Right. So now I have to, now you're as a shopper, you've come in to my shop, you have yet to make a purchase. At what point do we figure out that, hey, you know what? They're probably not going to make a purchase. So let me go ahead and cut bait and leave. Does that make sense?
But that's a lot to look in. That's almost like if we go and we've done that's almost like if we go to a restaurant, we're mid conversation or I don't know what I want to eat yet. So I sit down. So just because I haven't made an order doesn't mean I'm not going to make an order.
Correct.
Starbucks has only had one major faux pas in all of their years. And that was this same incident or a similar type incident. Someone comes in, sits down, they're waiting to meet somebody. Of course, if I'm waiting to meet you, if I call you up for a meeting, not waiting to meet you, I'm not going to order until you get there.
Until you're right, correct.
Show that level of courtesy, whatever, because I'm probably going to pay for whatever you get, whatever.
Right.
I'm going to wait. So another customer is uncomfortable because I ain't bought nothing, even though this ain't theirs.
Right.
And again, that situation had everything to do with color.
Correct.
And so now the police are called, whatever. Starbucks immediately goes into save face. We're going to retrain our employees so that this kind of thing never happens again. And now, a couple years up the road, now you're going to turn I just think it's bad, not just for Starbucks as a company, but Starbucks as a brand.
But because then also once you change that policy, then you get the vigilantes, right? You get the Karens that are going to now want to egg on. Yeah, I'm helping you out. I've been deputized.
Right.
Right. I've been deputized and I'm now the Starbucks sheriff that I'm going to assist you. Hey, that person over there they've been here for 20 minutes and they haven't, you see what I'm saying? Because the Wi-Fi is slow, and it's probably slow because this person. So if I get this person kicked out, I can finish my download.
Right.
Let me go off as a Karen.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it lends itself to these kind of problems that you originally were trying to avoid.
That you built your business.
You built your business, you built your brand off of the third place.
So now when I go to Starbucks, if they make these changes, now when I go, I can't go to the restroom first.
Right. Which usually that's where it's going. Because think about it, if you're on a trip or you're meeting somebody or whatever, it's like, hey, I got to take the bio break first. Then I'll get
refuel.
Then I'll get to, okay, let me get the caramel macchiato upside down, extra hot. You see?
I'm really, I think I'm more so upset with even the thought pattern, because we are big Starbucks people. Like my wife has like points, and it's all in her phone.
Oh, but I got the app right here.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
I mean, she
stars. Give me the stars.
I think she's platinum, whatever the level is. Right. So like we're big. So and again, I have the book, and so and it's like you're almost trying to build stuff off of the stuff that Starbucks started on, and now you're going away from what you started with. And let's be honest, the Starbucks coffee isn't any better than anybody else's coffee. There are other good coffee places. Right. There's another one I need to turn you on.
It's not even really coffee.
Yeah,
it's really coffee-like drinks, coffee-esque drinks.
But if I go inside, I'm going not just for the drink, but for the space and the ambiance and
everything that goes along with.
If you change that, you might as well change the name.
Right, it's New Coke. Once you do that, once you do this, once you change, it's New Coke, and we all remember. Those of us that grew up in the 80s, or if you ever, learned the lesson of New Coke, I'll go ahead and, just for those of you in the listening audience that I'm going to let you know why your can of Coca-Cola says Coca-Cola Classic.
Right.
The reason behind that is that Coca-Cola for years and years and years was just Coca-Cola. And then I believe it was because of the Pepsi Challenge. Because of the Pepsi Challenge, which was this nationwide tour and a brilliant marketing campaign on the part of Coca-Cola's competitor, Pepsi, is that they would do a blind taste test between two colas and, ask which one tastes better, A or B, right? And so then the person would say, oh, this one tastes better. And then it would be revealed that was Pepsi versus Coke. So they took the Pepsi Challenge, right? And so Pepsi is gaining ground because of this brilliant marketing move and all that stuff. So now the executives over at Coke have to figure out, well, hey, how do we combat the Pepsi Challenge? Well, here's what we'll do. We'll come up with a new and improved taste. We'll come up with New Coke, right? So New Coke now all of a sudden is going to roll out new formula that tastes better, all this different stuff. They roll it out and everybody hates it. It's terrible. They don't like it. So now they've gone from bad to worse. First, their competitor is saying it. Now it's confirmed by the consumer public that, hey, this is even worse. So then they're like, okay, well, we got to go back to the way it was. So we'll go and call it Coca-Cola Classic. And so now everybody gets nostalgic about, Coca-Cola Classic. And now Coca-Cola sales go back up and we're better than they were before. Right. Because they went back to what? The original formula.
And that's everything.
Original formula.
Hey, there's a reason why you went with that. Like, why turn now? Why turn it? So any major, manager, or if you know the CEO of Starbucks, please tell him.
Howard Schultz.
Please pull back.
Howie.
Let's think of something else. Let's do something else. There's been too much good, from Starbucks, and not the product, but like the service that, Well,
because the product, that's the thing, is that it is the brand. The business is the brand because they don't sell anything unique.
Right.
It's coffee and coffee adjacent items.
Yeah.
I mean, if you throw enough milk and caramel in it, buddy, yeah, sure, it tastes great.
Yeah.
But it's not even coffee in the strictest sense of the word anymore. It's coffee like drinks.
Yeah.
But the business is the brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, even it's somewhat of a status symbol. Just to walk around with a Starbucks cup in your hand.
Absolutely.
It says something about you. I can afford a $5 drink.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's an accessory. It's part of your outfit.
Yeah.
To have this, you gotta have the Starbucks, and you gotta hold it so that the little Starbucks logo is on the outside of your palm.
I have the I have the plastic cup.
Yeah. The refillable.
Yeah, refillable. Yeah.
Of course. As one does.
Come on, man. Come on.
You know?
This would be, this would hurt my heart. This really would. I would be, first the Jackson 5 breakup, now this. You ain't got nothing else to look forward to. It's just like, come on, Starbucks, don't do this. Please, if you're listening, please, Starbucks, don't do this. Rethink it. Rethink it. Let's go.
Reconsider.
Right.
Read some literature.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it's and this some of it may just be an economic reality. It's like, hey, we gotta separate the wheat from the chaff. Okay, we gotta make sure that the people that we're serving. Remember, there's a difference between a customer and a shopper. A shopper shows up, but a customer spends money. And at the end of the day, they can't report to Wall Street that we had XYZ amount of shoppers. Wall Street wants to know, what were your quarterly earnings?
Okay, but you have the potential to become a customer if you're a shopper.
I agree.
If you're not a shopper, there's
right.
No
you got to be a shopper.
No potential.
Right. Every customer's a shopper, but not every shopper is a customer. I get that. So you got to be one before you can be the other. And that's what I think has worked for them. But sometimes you have a change in management that has a different view. And it's like, wait a minute. I mean, we're paying for utilities, all these different things, blah, blah, blah. And especially in light of, pandemic and, it's like, hey, we're operating all these locations and, what is the financial impact of this policy? And if some consultant that gets paid thousands of dollars an hour came into a boardroom with a slideshow that says, hey, you can increase profits this % if you do this. Hey, everybody's bonus is based on the stock price. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But it's because they think it will give them a better economic reality. But taking everything all together, I think it's a mistake personally.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, if Starbucks does this and there's not the benefit of the atmosphere and the ambiance and whatever, I'm going to come and bum.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's no reason.
They got Dunkin' Donuts down here in Houston now.
There's no reason to go outside of it. I mean, it's just, and again, that's everything that Starbucks was built on. So it's just, bad. Hopefully they'll reconsider and it won't go through. But even for him to just say that, and I think he said it to some report at the New York Times.
Right. I read it on Inc. Inc. magazine.
And they pulled it from some quote that he gave, some reporter in the New York Times that was doing a story. If he went that far with it, it's not a consideration.
Right.
It's in the works.
It's in the works. You're floating it to gauge the response.
Right.
So if I float it as an idea before I actually have to face implementation, I can get a gauge as to how populous this may be.
Yeah.
Or how much backlash it may face. Right. So, you float it out there to gauge customer sentiment.
Yeah.
And if there's no major backlash, they're going to go through with it.
Somebody sent him the clip from the TBT show.
There you
go. Don't do this.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. There's another piece I want to touch on before we sign off. There's a story of a young man that sadly lost his life, but I think it speaks to a greater picture in our
Mhm.
culture
Mhm.
of how some of these kids think taking a life gives them more value in their own life, as crazy as that sounds. So tell us what happened to this 27-year-old rapper.
Yeah. So we had a very sad story. Given name Avanti Frowner, 27 years old. He raps under the stage name Money Gang Vante. He's from California, but he was in New York City, specifically the Bronx. And he was, doing what most rappers do, promoting themselves, online on social media. And he had a really nice chain, that was made that was like kind of his signature.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was promoting himself, so on and so forth. And that caught the eye of some local guys. And they found out where he was, and he ended up being met by two people that came into a pharmacy in the Bronx where Vontae was trying to get some over-the-counter eye drops, routine, picking up some supplies. And so two guys came up to him and asked if he wanted, to buy some weed. He declined. And as those two people were trying to engage him in conversation, three other guys come in. So now you have 5-on-1, and they start beating this guy up. I mean, they start beating him up. The store clerks are all, running into the basement and all that different stuff. And they end up taking this guy's chain because they beat him up so bad, he's defenseless.
Mm-hmm.
And as this dude is defenseless, got his chain, they still shoot him 4 times, point blank range, and kill him. All of this was caught on the video surveillance of the pharmacy. And this is in the middle of the day, broad daylight. And these guys thought that his chain was more valuable than his life. When they were 5-on-1 and could have easily just walked away with the chain, and he could have done nothing about it.
Right.
It's 5-on-1.
Right.
So a cowardly attack, hoping that very soon they'll have these assailants in custody. They have them on video.
Right.
So
it won't be long.
It won't be long.
Right.
And so it's just reckless.
Yeah. And it speaks to the for me in this, and again, I'm one of the first generation where we're kind of from this, where we're adults, is from this hip hop generation. And I know, and even when we talked about it earlier, I know to some people it gives them credibility or street cred, we would call it, to steal a certain kind of chain from a certain person.
Yeah, because it was this guy's custom signature.
Of course,
it was his stage name.
There was some
on
rapper,
a
I can't
nameplate.
think of who, and I don't want to say the wrong name. Some rapper here in Houston got his chain snatched.
Yeah, well, I mean, chain snatching, that happens.
Well, and that was it could have gotten worse, but he's got his chain snatched, whatever, and ended up one of the models, moguls from our city, who's always helpful. Lil J made sure he got his chain back, because we don't want to be a city that's known for that kind of foolishness.
It was Steve Francis.
Was it?
It was Steve Francis.
I couldn't remember who, but what it says to us is there's a certain segment of our young people that think they get more credibility by stealing something or taking something than they would be by earning it themselves. So, to those young men that might be listening, or those adults that have some young men, we need to get back to letting our young people know that credibility comes, even street cred, comes from earning it, from getting it, not from stealing it or taking a life or getting some kind of cred because you took the life of a certain person or whatever that was. I give credence always. I'm Northeast through and through. Mesa Road, Tidwell, Homestead, Northwest Side. And so one of our heroes, if you would be Slim Thug. I went to school with Thug Homestead, Langley, and to see him doing good now does good not just for him, but it does good for every young man that comes from the same area he was raised in. Like, those of us that remember, he was selling, tapes out of the trunk of the car, and and now he's that guy. And so again, the hustle, credibility comes from the hustle, and the hustle is not about stealing,
right,
or killing.
And this is just cowardly.
Very cowardly.
5 on 1. I mean, how do you? This is my deal. How do you walk away proud of a 5 on 1
where you still have to use a gun?
Where you're jumping a guy, you beat him down. It takes 5 of you, and you shoot the guy while he's defenseless,
right,
and you walk away with his chain, and you're so sloppy that you're on video. Yeah. I mean, they got a clear shot of all 5 of them.
Right.
Right. And so how do you walk away like, oh, I did that, and be proud of that?
Man, listen, our culture has to face too much destruction from external sources to ever create destruction. And I get it. There's always going to be, white on white crime, black on black crime. I get it.
Right.
We live near each other, and you're always going to be, at odds with people you live near. I get it. But at some point, we got to be a part of the change of building our culture up and not tearing it down.
Yeah.
And it's, my grandmother used to say, when it's not the woodpeckers on the outside, it's the termites on the inside. We can't be, I want to see the next man. We can't be competition.
Right.
If we're completion. I want to see you come up, and that doesn't come from Rob. Listen, I feel like the worst crime in our culture ever is stealing from each other. Everybody doing bad. Like taking from you to give, like, what does that do? And then to kill a young life, 27 years old. Now the potential of who he could have become and the people he could have helped it is now gone. Because these 5 nutcases decided that was it's just
that was the best course of action.
For a culture standpoint, it's just not good. So, prayers goes out to his family, of course.
Absolutely.
But again, for, as a culture perspective, it's just not a good look. And then we need to try to encourage these young men to greatness and not to, be a part of this kind of foolishness. Where this, and again, only because he was a rapper does he even make the national news.
Right. Well, and on the other side of things, he was from California. This happened in New York,
and it's that,
and it right, and obviously this happened because he was flaunting. Now the thing is that he should be able to. If I'm not advocating it, because this is the type of attention that you get when you have something and you flaunt it in front of those that don't have it.
Right.
Is that now it's like, hey, man, he's in front of that pharmacy. Man, that's around. We can be there in 15 minutes. We ain't doing nothing else.
Yeah.
Let's roll up on him.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't make it right, but it's a lesson that we can take away. It's something to be aware of in this current context and culture, is that if some people, if they see that you have something that you've worked for to obtain, and they feel like they can take it from you without working for it,
they're going to try.
Some people will try. Some people will hate on you so bad that they'll go from thought to action. They'll go from decision to deed and try to harm you if that's what it takes.
Right.
To get away from you that which they desire.
Right.
So it goes to the same thing on a lower level. It may not be a chain worth thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
It might be a pair of Jordans.
Right. Right.
Might be a Gucci this or a Louis that or a Ferragamo something.
Right. Right. Or it could just be that little knot in your pocket.
Yeah.
You flashing, trying to be impressive.
Right. Could just be that.
And
Could be a set of wheels. Could be a whole car.
Right.
Could be anything.
Right. Right.
And so,
Right.
you know,
and this is timely, because it's summer months. A lot of our kids are moving around. And here's a life lesson. And again, I'm not trying to preach. It's not, what we did the show for. But here's a life lesson. Not everyone in your circle is in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that we surround ourselves with that we deem them to be friends. That may not be friends. So the young people, summer months, and I know you're getting around and moving around. Be careful how you flash your little blessings.
You move. Yeah.
You know, some people are waiting on you to take their picture of your food and put it on Instagram just to know you ain't at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
And, or know where your car's parked.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we were staying at a particular hotel in Memphis, and my wife, who's very active on social media, she posted. Now that we're back, I can go ahead and reveal this. But she posted on social media a picture of her in the hotel, but she put a different hotel than where we were staying.
Okay.
And so I told my wife, I was like, hey, I saw on this particular social media that you put this, we're staying at this other hotel,
right.
which is here.
Right.
And she shared with me, she's like, well, Shawn, I don't want to put where we actually are. You see what I'm saying? Because of the concern.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of the concern, because, but on the first hand, I was just like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then as I thought about it, I'm like, you know what though? The sad, sorry state of affairs that we're in.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense upon further review.
Right.
But at first I'm like, you're doing way too much.
Right.
You're doing way too much. Or that you just simply made a mistake. You checked in here and we were actually there.
Right.
But no, it was intentional.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, now I understand.
That. And it's sad that we have to be like that, but
you got to think of things like this.
Yes, absolutely.
You got to think of things like this.
And especially to our young people. And that's why I want to keep pushing it. We just had a graduation day. We honored our graduates at church, man. I'm so proud of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
But especially to them, because I know the social media world has made them think that every friend you have on Facebook is your real friend, and that's not the case.
Right.
Or everybody that follows you on Instagram is and that's not the case.
Right.
So, I just want them to be mindful of these are the kind of events that happen, across our country. So we can be on guard for it. I hate that happened to that young man, 27 years old.
Very sad.
But again, prayers go out to his family and all those that were affected by his that untimely,
passing,
unnecessary death.
Yeah, unnecessary.
And so again, thank you for joining us today. Again, and let me say this before we sign out. I got the honor of doing the eulogy for a family that part raised me at Canaan. The Lewis family. And there's a lot of things I learned about Gregory Lewis at his service that I did not know. And again, I saw him, growing up, and I found out he was the first Black deputy chief of the Houston Fire Department.
Wow.
And so not only our thoughts and prayers with the Lewis family, but he showed me in our own little ways we can continue to, make history. So again, we're praying for the Lewis family, the death of Gregory Lewis, Raymond Anderson, who lost his wife, Carla Anderson, who was also my cooking coach.
Okay.
Of course, I can't cook, but she was trying to help me. And she's gone on to be with God. So again, we're praying for those two families in particular. another family that lost a young woman who was 21, had an accident on 45, was killed in an accident. They buried her Friday, the Wingo family. And so we want to pray for the families connected to them as well. So you have anything going on coming up?
Man, you know, we're recording. By the time this airs, it'll probably be the day after Juneteenth. So happy Juneteenth.
Absolutely.
You know, to all those that are celebrating. The fourth Sunday, we're celebrating our 63rd church anniversary at the Good Shepherd Church.
Okay.
You know, also on the north side of Houston, northwest side.
The mayor.
Sedigas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Lee Skinner is the mayor of Northeast Houston.
The mayor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got to come by and show the mayor some love.
Yeah, come on through.
He's a friend and mentor to everybody in Northeast Houston. Model, mentor, motivator, preacher. Thank God for having Pastor Skinner on the same side of town as me.
Yeah.
I'm blessed by it. So definitely
exactly.
We'll do that. The Good Shepherd Church. Thank God for them 63 years. And then I know it'll be late, but again, I want to honor Father's Day always. If you haven't heard the previous show, go hear it. I think it'll bless all fathers, marriages, families, as we try to do our best in this, this changing society.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a blessing as well. We don't have anything. It'll be a week late. Yeah. So we don't have anything. Again, Juneteenth, Father's Day, the 19th.
The 19th?
Which will be a day late, but the 19th is my wedding anniversary.
What?
Yeah.
Man, happy anniversary.
Well, yeah.
20. So is it 23? It's going to make 23?
It's going to make 23.
I remember you mentioned it in our
last
episode.
Yeah, 23 years. And so,
wow.
Yeah. So we'll be doing it big as a family, man. I'm happy to be here.
Good stuff.
So, yeah. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Shawn, for your insight today, as always. And thank you for being with us. Please subscribe our YouTube channel, the Apple Podcast, so you can catch the show as it airs or as it's put out. Again, check out the website. It'll be at the bottom of the YouTube link, or at the bottom of your podcast, the podcast.
TheTBTShow.com.
Absolutely.
TheTBTShow.com.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting. We'll see you all again next week. Thank you so much.